Hey people, I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I'll try to maintain a spirit of compassion and grace as I make this video, because this is a topic that raises a lot of emotions. There's a lot of anger related to this, and it's the issue of the hatred being directed towards men these days. A lot of men are getting very defensive. A lot of men feel like they're under attack because there's so much anger and misandry going around being directed towards men. And a lot of men equate it to misogyny, and they're not at all the same for reasons I'm not going to get into in this video, just how blatantly disproportionate the level of power and privilege in society given to men compared to women, and how misandry does not destroy lives the way misogyny does. But it is a fact that there's a lot of hatred and rage being directed towards men these days. And I think men don't appreciate how prevalent sexual assault is in society, not just because of the amount of men who are rapists, and it is the vast majority of rapists who are men. And it's not just that women are the ones who are always being raped, because men get raped a lot too, but almost every time a man is raped is by another man. Men are the majority of rapists, and men rape all the time in ways that they don't even see as rape. It's at a point in society where anyone who's old, any older generations, are shocked at what younger generations will call sexual assault. Even men in younger generations are sometimes shocked at what women will label sexual assault. And rather than being educated, rather than sitting down and being humble and learning, they lash out and they get defensive and say, that's not sexual assault. And I want women and people who don't identify as men, because it's mostly just people who identify as men, who are born as men, identify as men, who are defensive about this. And what I need both men and people who don't identify as men to understand is that the reason why a lot of these men don't recognize what is sexual assault as sexual assault isn't because they're dicks, it's because they're scared in ways they don't understand. Because if what we do to women, all the little things we do to women, are sexual assault, then that means all the things we experienced ourselves is also sexual assault. And guys, this is for you guys, it is. Every male has been raped. Every male has been sexually assaulted. Every single one of us. How do I know? Because I am a fucking male. And we have all been sexually assaulted because we grew up sexually assaulting each other. We grew up in a culture of sexual assault. Especially if we're conservative, especially if we're religious, we grew up in an environment of constant sexual assault, where we were constantly sexually assaulting each other. And we are desensitized to when we sexually assault women because we become so desensitized to when we were sexually assaulted ourselves. It's not always because a man came and raped us. That's the overt ones where we all can all accept, yeah, that was sexual assault. When you get fiddled by our uncle, or the teacher had to stay late after class and put his hand on our ass. Shit like that. No, I'm talking about when our brothers start learning about sexual shit in school, and they come back and they teach it to their younger brothers. And so younger brothers start a sexual awakening far earlier than they're supposed to, because they start learning from their older brothers. And the older brother lives in a society of other guys his age who are all sexually frustrated because they're not allowed to touch the girls, because biologically we're supposed to be having sex by the time we're in our teens. We start reaching this point of sexual maturity where for hundreds of thousands of years we start having sex with each other. But then religion came up, we had these social structures, life expectancies got longer, the expectations as to when adulthood is supposed to start got longer, and so the period in which we're supposed to wait before we're allowed to have sex by our parents, especially in conservative Christian society, whose values still permeate society even though we are no longer Christian societies, are still in place. So teen boys oftentimes have less outlets, and again, especially in conservative society, for sex. So all that frustration builds up, and so we start letting it out on each other. If you go and you slap a girl's ass, the teacher will say, hey, you can't do that. You go up and slap your guy's ass, no one says shit. You go up and you smack him in the balls, no one says shit. You whack him on the back, no one says shit. You grab him and you dunk his head in a fucking toilet, no one says shit. And you don't say shit about it if you're the one getting your head dunked in the toilet, you're getting smacked in the balls, because you know this is just going to be your excuse to go and do it to someone else. You're going to go and smack someone else in the balls. You're going to go grab some other dude's ass. You're going to slap some other dude's back. You're going to dunk some other dude's head in the toilet. Because that's what we do to each other. Because we're all fucking sexually frustrated. And rather than internalizing that, or talking to someone, or just fucking consensually, we'd rather perpetrate sexual violence on each other. And then the brothers go home and they do it to their younger brothers, who aren't sexually awakened yet. They'll grab their ass or slap their back or smack them in the nuts and say, oh, you let your guard down, haha. And we think it's male training. We're training ourselves for, the dangerous world out there. We're not doing that. We're sexually assaulting each other. And then we do it to younger brothers who then do it to their friends. And instead of just being 18-year-olds or 16-year-olds who are doing it, you have 11-year-olds and 9-year-olds who are also doing it, going to each other and sexually assaulting each other without even understanding that it's sexual assault. And then we grow up and we go into the real world and we go into the workforce and we start sexually assaulting women the way we've been sexually assaulting each other since we were fucking children. And we get, whoa, why are you accusing me of sexual assault? I'm not a rapist. Well, no, you've been raping and sexually assaulting people since you were 9 years old. You just didn't realize that that's what it was. And that's the crux of this issue, is that we grow up as males sexually assaulting each other and being sexually assaulted by each other, and we become completely desensitized by it. And we are predators onto each other. And so we become desensitized to just how fucking predatorial we are. And we go out in the world and we are menaces. We are dangerous. We've been conditioned to be dangerous because we've been threats to each other all throughout high school, all throughout junior high, even sometimes all throughout elementary school. We've been threats to each other. We've been sexually assaulting each other. And then we go into the world and women are fucking terrified of us for good reason. Because even if 40% of us have the restraint to say, no, we're not going to do that, there's the other 60% who don't. And the 40% who are good, most of them do nothing to keep the other 60% accountable. And the 60% is, I'm including everyone from actual full-blown rapists who will go and impregnate people in the night to people who will just occasionally make a very uncomfortable joke or make a woman feel very uncomfortable by making very unwelcome advances, to people who are grabbing asses and up the chain to, a good 60%, and I think I'm being generous to the 40% by giving them 40%, saying there's 40% of men who don't do that in any way. I think if we're honest, it's far less than 40% of men who never sexually assault women in any capacity, whether it's verbally or physically, in all the little innocent ways we fail to recognize as sexual assault. Again, because it's what we've experienced all our growing up. And men need to wake up to this. Men need to stop thinking it makes you weak to call a spade a spade. If you were born with a dick, you've been sexually assaulted since childhood, and it was mostly by the other children. Let that sink in. Accept this. We are all victims of sexual assault. And because we've become conditioned to it and used it as a way of iron sharpening iron, we fail to recognize how it destroys women's lives. Biologically, we're supposed to be protecting women. Society says that we're supposed to be protecting women. Yet we are the greatest threat to women. A lot of conservative kids grow up terrified of their parents because the parents who are biologically supposed to be protecting them are actually the child's greatest threat. In conservative families where they practice corporal discipline, and where there's very strict power structures in the house, the parents are the greatest threat to the child's safety. And children, even if they feel loved, even if they have a healthy relationship with their parents, they still growing up fearing the parents. And if you fear the one who's responsible for your safety, there is no true sense of safety. So if women are afraid of men, and men feel like they're supposed to be the ones who keep women safe, then women have no safety. Because by and large, from one man to one woman, the man is almost always bigger. The man is always stronger. And women exist at the whims of men because there's little women can really do to stop a man who is adamant on getting what he wants from her. So women grow up terrified of men because men are fucking threats. And it starts by us being threats to each other. So men need to accept that we suffered from each other. We need to accept this so that we can recognize how we make women suffer, how we are threats to women, why women are terrified of us, why women hate us. If you were weaker than another group of people, and that group of people, a whole bunch of them, are active threats to you, don't you think you would feel a lot of resentment towards them too? Don't you think you would use hyperbolic language like saying, oh, all of them are threats, all of them are dicks, I hate them. I feel romantically attracted to them, And some of them aren't terrible. I'm able to accept one or two of them in my life as a partner or whatever. But by and large, that group of people terrifies me and I hate them. Don't you think you'd understand that? So yes, women have good reason for hating men. Women have good reason for being afraid of men. There are a lot of men who are afraid of men. And men need to wake up to this, stop defending themselves, and recognize that I was a victim of sexual assault. I committed sexual assault towards my friends, towards my siblings. And maybe there's a chance that having been desensitized to that, I go out and I commit sexual assault towards women as well. Not meaning to, not realizing that that's what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. And these women who didn't grow up in a culture of sexual assault like we did aren't comfortable with it. They aren't in denial of it. Unless they've grown up constantly being, experiencing sexual assault and having it justified, so that they start justifying it themselves in these rare cases where you have people who are just so caught up in the victim mentality that they don't even understand that they're victims. Most women didn't grow up being raped all the time and sexually assaulted all the time the way guys do with each other. And so they don't accept that a guy will come up to them and sexually assault them the way a guy will accept that another guy will come up and sexually assault them. They have every right to be upset. They have every right to defend themselves. They have every right to be angry. And you should be angry too. Not against women, but against this patriarchal society that created this culture of sexual assault and rape. And you should be joining women in trying to dismantle this culture, help other guys realize that they've been victims of sexual assault and that they also perpetrate sexual assault whether they intend to or not, and help to deconstruct this system. Because as the quote says, evil prevails when good men do nothing. And good men, or men who claim to be good, can't sit by and do nothing. We can't just let guys make misogynistic jokes as though that doesn't harm society, that doesn't kick people who are already down in the face. Because women have been down for tens of thousands of years, really going back to when we started doing agriculture, and all of a sudden we didn't need men who are more biologically disposable to go out and do all the dangerous work, because we didn't have to go on these weeks-long journeys to gather meat for the tribe. Now we could just sit home, throw seed in the ground, and just watch it grow. And all of a sudden, we didn't need to do dangerous shit, so we're like, oh, well, I feel this aggression in me because of 100,000 years of going and killing animals. I might as well redirect that at my wife. We need to deconstruct this system we've had since the advent of agriculture, in which men are threats to women. We need to understand that being born a male doesn't make you bad. But the conditioning we had growing up as males has often made us bad. And we need to deconstruct that. We need to protect our women. We need to protect our children. We need to recognize that we've been raised to be threats to the people we love. And we need to consciously change that. We need to consciously hold other men accountable. We need to consciously educate other men. Because we've left it to the women to educate us and inform us about how we're threats to them for way too long. And they're fucking tired. It's so much work to be a woman. Just having to deal with a moon cycle and all the shifts that go along with that, just because biologically you're responsible to carry the future generations of children, whether you intend to carry children or not, and have all the burdens that go along with that. Men will never be able to appreciate just the biological burden it is to be a woman. Add to that the social burden of being a woman, of having half of society be a potential threat to you. Women work so fucking hard. Any woman who gets to where a man did had to work 3 times as hard as that man to get there. For biological and social reasons. Women work hard. Men need to give them a break. Women need to stop being responsible to do all the fighting on their own. To fight for themselves against a bunch of men are trying to defend their privilege. Stop defending yourself. You are not under threat. Being called out for shit isn't a threat. And if you're threatened by people calling you out, then to use male patriarchal abusive terminology, you're a little bitch. If you're the kind of guy who thinks that the things that make you weak make you a little bitch, having to react defensively to someone calling you out for your shit is being a bitch. So stop it. Have a bit of patience, have a bit of humility, and consider, is this true? Am I guilty of this? Go and talk to your female friends. Say, hey, have I ever made you feel uncomfortable? Because I know I was that guy for a very long time. I had to be in a relationship for almost a year and a half before I started recognizing all the little ways that I have often been a threat to women, that I've made women feel uncomfortable all throughout my life. I mean, the fact that I'm autistic and didn't always understand social things didn't help. But more significantly, growing up in male society where we were constantly assaulting each other helped a lot less. And I had to learn, I had to grow humble, I had to accept it, I had to do my own research and look at all the statistics and see how men are overwhelmingly responsible for almost every single criminal demographic. That we are the threat to society. That if you killed off all the cis straight males, you would solve 95% of the world's problems, and I don't say that lightly, it is true. 95% of the world's problems could be solved by killing off all the straight cis males. And that's not to say we should kill off the straight cis males. That's to get straight cis males to wake up and recognize how much they are a problem and why. It's not because you have a dick. It's because you grew up in a society that perpetrated sexual violence. So please, accept this, recognize this, and love yourself. Love women. Listen to them. Consider what they have to say. Consider that the ways in which they are victims, you may have been a victim that way too. And the defensiveness you're feeling isn't because you feel attacked by them. It's because it's the victim in you crying out for recognition. The victim in you that resonates what she's saying and is angry that you aren't giving yourself the same validation that she's giving herself. As she's saying, I was a victim of sexual assault. The victim in you is crying out for you to say, I was a victim of sexual assault too. And that was a problem. Not, I was able to accept it and you should too. You should cope just as I did. No, we shouldn't cope with sexual assault. We should address it. We should attack it. We should stop it. We need to stop this culture of children, boys, sexually assaulting boys and calling it boys will be boys. Because those boys will be boys who are sexually assaulting other boys are going to grow up to be rapists. Let's save our kids. Let's save our women. Let's save ourselves.